HOA Karen destroyed grandma's wheelchair, sued for $250K in community center. The community center's fluorescent lights buzzed like a swarm of angry bees. But no one noticed. Not when Karen Whitaker, self-appointed queen of the Pine Grove Homeowners Association, stood nose to nose with 82-year-old Evelyn Carter, her manicured finger jabbing the air like a dagger. The room held its breath, waiting for the explosion. Evelyn's hands trembled on her cane, her frail frame barely holding up under the weight of her fury. "You had no right," she spat, her voice cracking but fierce. "That wheelchair was my freedom," Karen smirked, her lips curling like she just won a game no one else was playing. The crowd, neighbors, friends, and a few curious stragglers watched in stunned silence, their phones already recording. It started innocently enough. As most disasters do, Pine Grove was a quiet suburban enclave, the kind of place where kids rode bikes in cul-de-sacs and retirees tended rose gardens. Evelyn, a widow who'd lived there for 30 years, was the neighborhood's heart. She baked cookies for new families, organized book clubs, and, despite her arthritis, never missed a community event. Her electric wheelchair, a second-hand model she'd saved for, was her lifeline. It let her zip to the community center, chat with friends, and feel alive. Everyone loved Evelyn, everyone except Karen. Karen Whitaker moved into Pine Grove 2 years ago, her SUV gleaming with the arrogance of new money. As HOA president, she wielded rules like a sledgehammer. No unapproved mailboxes, no lawn decorations past 8 p.m., no unsightly vehicles parked overnight. Her emails, laced with passive-aggressive emojis, flooded inboxes weekly. "It's about standards," she'd say, tossing her blonde bob at meetings. But to the neighbors, it was about control. Karen didn't just enforce rules, she hunted for violations like a predator sniffing out prey. Evelyn's wheelchair became Karen's obsession. It wasn't flashy, just a sturdy, gray machine with a slightly squeaky wheel, but Karen deemed it an eyesore. She claimed it cluttered the community center's parking lot, where Evelyn left it during events. "It's a safety hazard," Karen declared at the last HOA meeting, ignoring the fact that the lot had plenty of space. Evelyn, sitting in the front row, had laughed softly. "Hazard, it's my legs." "Karen." The room chuckled, but Karen's eyes narrowed. That was the moment the battle lines were drawn. The trouble escalated the next week. Evelyn arrived at the community center for her weekly bridge game, only to find her wheelchair gone. She'd parked it near the handicapped ramp, as always, but the spot was empty. Panicked, she hobbled inside on her cane, her knees screaming with every step. "Has anyone seen my chair?" she asked, her voice trembling. The room fell silent. Then, a teenager in the corner piped up. "I saw Karen towing it away with her SUV. She said it was unauthorized." Evelyn's heart sank. She called Karen, who answered with a saccharine. "Oh, Evelyn, I moved it to the storage shed. It's fine." But it wasn't fine. When Evelyn's grandson, Marcus, retrieved the wheelchair, it was a wreck, wheels bent, frame dented, motor sparking uselessly. Karen had dragged it behind her car, claiming she was relocating it for safety. The damage was deliberate, a power play written in twisted metal. Evelyn, who'd saved for years to afford that chair, wept. The community center, usually a place of laughter, felt like a funeral parlor. Words spread like wildfire. Neighbors whispered in driveways, posted rants on the community's private Facebook group, and swapped stories of Karen's tyranny. There was the time she'd fined a single mom $200 for leaving a tricycle on her lawn, or when she'd reported a veterans therapy dog as a nuisance because it barked once. But this destroying an elderly woman's wheelchair, it was a new low. Even for Karen, the tension simmered for days. Evelyn, too proud to beg, borrowed a manual wheelchair from a friend, but it was heavy and hard to maneuver. Her independence shriveled. She stopped coming to bridge games, her absence a gaping hole in the community's spirit. Marcus, a quiet 25-year-old who worked as a mechanic, took it hardest. He'd grown up under Evelyn's care, her stories of resilience shaping him. Seeing her confined to her house, her spark dimmed, lit a fire in him. "She's not just my grandma," he told a neighbor. "She's everyone's." Then came the twist no one saw coming. At the next HOA meeting, a stranger slipped into the back row. He was middle-aged, balding, with a briefcase that screamed lawyer. His name was Tom Rivera, a pro bono attorney who'd heard about Evelyn's plight through a friend in Pine Grove. Tom had a reputation for taking on small-town bullies, and Karen's name had reached his radar. He sat quietly, taking notes as Karen droned on about mailbox paint codes. When she opened the floor for comments, Tom stood. "Miss Whitaker," he said, his voice calm but sharp, "I'm here on behalf of Evelyn Carter. You destroyed her wheelchair, a vital medical device valued at $3,000. That's vandalism, possibly elder abuse." The room gasped. Karen's face drained of color, her usual smugness replaced by a flicker of panic. "I didn't mean to break it," she stammered. "It was an accident." But Tom wasn't done. "You also violated ADA regulations by removing a mobility aid without consent. My client is suing you for $250,000 for the chair, plus emotional distress and punitive damages." The community center erupted. Neighbors cheered, some clapped, others shouted. Finally, Karen tried to regain control, banging her gavel, but it was useless. The room had turned on her. Evelyn, sitting in her borrowed wheelchair, looked at Tom with tears in her eyes. She hadn't asked for this, but Marcus had. He'd contacted Tom in secret, determined to fight for his grandmother. The confrontation hit its peak the next evening. Karen, desperate to save face, called an emergency meeting at the community center, claiming she'd resolved the issue. The room was packed, standing room only. Evelyn arrived, pushed by Marcus, her face a mix of exhaustion and resolve. Karen stood at the front, her voice shaking as she tried to spin the narrative. "I was protecting our community's image," she said. "That chair was an eyesore, and I acted in good faith." The crowd booed. A woman in the back yelled, "You dragged it with your car." Another neighbor, a retired nurse named Clara, stood up. "Evelyn's blood pressure's been through the roof since this happened. She can't sleep." "You call that good faith?" Karen's eyes darted, searching for allies, but found none. Even her usual supporters, 2 HOA board members who'd backed her mailbox crusade, sat silent, heads bowed. Then Evelyn spoke. Her voice was soft but cut through the chaos like a blade. "Karen, you didn't just break my chair. You broke my trust. I welcomed you to this neighborhood. I baked you cookies. And you took away the one thing that let me live my life." The room fell silent. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came. For the first time, she looked small. Tom stepped forward, holding up photos of the mangled wheelchair. "This isn't just damage," he said. "This is malice. Miss Whitaker, you'll be hearing from the court." The crowd roared again, a mix of anger and triumph. Karen fled the room, her heels clicking as she pushed through the jeering crowd. Outside, someone had taped a handwritten sign to her SUV, "Karen's chaos, justice served." The aftermath was swift and brutal. The lawsuit moved forward, with Tom building an airtight case. Neighbors testified about Karen's pattern of harassment, from petty fines to bullying tactics. Clara, the nurse, submitted a medical report detailing Evelyn's declining health since the incident, sleepless nights, worsening arthritis, and a heart murmur exacerbated by stress. The $250,000 claim wasn't just about the wheelchair. It was about accountability. Karen tried to fight back, hiring a lawyer who argued she'd acted reasonably as HOA president, but the evidence was overwhelming. Photos of the wheelchair, towed behind her SUV, went viral on social media. A local news outlet picked up the story, dubbing her HOA Karen in a scathing segment. Pine Grove's Facebook group exploded with memes, Karen's face photoshopped onto a tow truck, or a wheelchair with a caption, "Run while you can." She became a pariah, her SUV rarely seen in her driveway. Rumors swirled she was planning to move. Evelyn, meanwhile, became a quiet hero. Donations poured in to replace her wheelchair, organized by Marcus and Clara. A local mobility shop donated a brand new model, lightweight and electric, with a custom cushion for Evelyn's comfort. At the next community event, she rolled in, beaming, as neighbors applauded. "I don't care about the money," she told them. "I just want my freedom back." The court date arrived 3 months later. Karen, dressed in a muted blazer, looked like a shadow of her former self. The judge, unimpressed by her lawyer's excuses, ruled in Evelyn's favor. Karen was ordered to pay $3,000 for the wheelchair, $50,000 for emotional distress, and $197,000 in punitive damages to deter future misconduct. The courtroom cheered as Karen's head dropped. She'd sold her SUV to cover legal fees, and whispers of bankruptcy followed her out. Pine Grove began to heal. The HOA board, shamed by the scandal, voted Karen out unanimously. A new president, a soft-spoken retiree named Linda, promised transparency and kindness. Evelyn resumed her bridge games, her new wheelchair humming softly. Marcus, now a local legend, started a petition to reform HOA rules, gaining hundreds of signatures. The community center, once a battleground, became a place of unity again. But the story wasn't just about victory. It was about what happens when power goes unchecked, when one person's ego tramples a community's heart. Karen's fall was a lesson, etched in the wreckage of a wheelchair and the courage of an elderly woman who refused to be silenced. What do you think, was justice served, or did the punishment go too far? Share your thoughts below.